Hate to promote Politico, which is pretty bad most of the time, but they had a remarkable piece a couple of days ago. We will concede that. And it explained how the Obama administration's Justice and State Departments deliberately undercut efforts to bring down a billion-dollar drug cartel linked to Hezbollah, the terror group. It all happened in secret, apparently with the goal of getting a nuclear deal with Iran. How did this happen? Eli Lake is a columnist at Bloomberg. He's written about national security and foreign policy for many years and joins us now. Eli, first question. Is this story from your reporting essentially true?
Well, it fits a pattern with what I would call the sort of increasing price of the Iran deal, which is that we keep learning later of other concessions that were made that, were not part of the original explanation of that nuclear deal to the American public. And I've also heard the more general concern that, as a general rule, the Obama administration went softer on, lots of kind of Iran's regional predations. But the specifics of this particular story, I think, I know the reporter Josh Meyer, I think it's solid. And
but it's one thing to say, look, we're not going to hassle Iranian diplomats, or we're going to look the other way at nonsense going on in Lebanon. But Hezbollah teaming up with the Zetas, the Mexican drug cartel, to import tons of cocaine into the United States in the middle of a drug epidemic seems like a pretty big thing to overlook.
It's not just that, and you're right, that is a big deal from a drug enforcement perspective.
Yeah.
It's also an illicit stream of income to the main arm of Iran's foreign policy.
So if you can explain
that
to our viewers quickly who didn't read the piece.
Yeah, well, what it basically is that there was a two-way operation. It laundered money back to Hezbollah, but it also was a drug trafficking network. But one of the things that it means is also it's a way for Hezbollah to sort of have a revenue stream to then support their activities in Syria and Iraq and other places in the region where they're causing a lot of mayhem on Iran's behalf.
So there's no question that the Obama people knew this was going on and overlooked it because they felt the Iran deal was so important. Is there any way, and I know you're probably not a fan of the Iran deal, but is there any way, do you think, ethically, to justify that decision?
Well, there are decisions that are made all the time between law enforcement and intelligence gathering,
yes.
And that is a real thing. And you could, I think, proponents of the deal would say that it's very important to do what you can to try to disarm as much as you can for the 10 to 15 years that the Iran deal lasts. My issue in particular is that all of these sorts of concessions that the Obama administration made should have been told to the American people up front when Congress was voting on it in 2015 and they were selling it to the American people.
Is there any indication that members of Congress knew that this was going on, that the DEA was being prevented from interdicting drug trafficking on behalf of the DEA?
Well, that I did a little bit of reporting on, and I can tell you that Republican members are shocked at this point. There has been some pushback from Obama alumni, but they haven't really addressed the central claims of the article.
And the pushback has consisted of?
They've consisted of saying, well, the on-the-record sources are affiliated with biased think tanks, but that's, I think, pretty weak.
Yeah.
I mean, the on-the-record sources also, one of them was in this task force who was telling his story, and there were anonymous sources as well. So it was sort of, if you can't dispute the facts, dispute the sources, that kind of thing.
That's always the way. Eli, thank you for that.
Thank you.
David Teferi is a former State Department official. He advised Barack Obama's presidential campaigns on questions of foreign policy, and he joins us tonight. So, David, 60,000 people died last year of drug ODs. I think we're sort of beyond the point where we can pretend that there's not a massive, historic drug crisis going on in America, and yet the Obama administration, as that crisis was ramping up, in effect allowed tons of narcotics to come into the country knowingly. That seems jaw-dropping to me.
Well, this is really a story about terrorism and about our Iran policy. We can agree on a couple things. First of all, that Hezbollah does support terrorism, that Hezbollah is an arm of Iran, and it carries out Iran's anti-American, anti-Western agenda. So we should be using law enforcement to confront Hezbollah, and we have been doing that. This story suggests, however, that the Obama administration pulled back on a major law enforcement investigation in order to support the Iran deal. That is troubling if true. However, this story is thinly supported, and Eli Lake noted some of the ways in which it's thinly supported. It's basically based on two former DA agents who have an agenda. I have a contact. He just left the Treasury Department last summer. He says that this is a disgusting hit job by a cabal of people with an agenda. Okay, so there are two sides to this story.
Well, that's not a side, actually. That's an ad hominem attack on the reporting without offering countervailing evidence. Let me stipulate that all stories in Washington come with an agenda, explicit or not. not. So of course there are agendas.
Well, this comes from
But you're not. But is he saying that it's untrue that the Obama people knew that Hezbollah was partnering with the Mexican drug cartel to import cocaine by the ton into the United States and launder terror money? They did know that, correct?
If you look at his tweets, he is saying it's not true. The interagency process, which involves the intelligence community, State Department, Treasury, folks like him who were on the sanctions policy group, were monitoring this very closely, and they did not agree that the Obama administration suddenly changed its policy. Now, if the Obama administration did, that is problematic. But the problem is this 50-page plus story with lots of details is really just based on the testimony of just 2 people, and that's problematic. So it needs further investigation before you indict the entire Obama administration.
I don't know that that's true, and I'm not indicting the entire Obama administration. The show is not long enough to do that, but I'd enjoy it. I'm merely saying that this piece purportedly is based on interviews with dozens of people, it says, directly involved in this. There's an on-the-record piece of written testimony before Congress from an Obama Treasury official saying that a specific DEA operation, Cassandra, meant to interdict cocaine shipments here, was stymied on purpose. So is that true or not? It sounds like it is true. How is that not true?
There are plenty of quotes in the article that also from people in the Obama administration who said, no, that's not true.
No,
that the Obama administration did not pull back.
With respect,
there's one right here.
I read the piece carefully.
The White House did not attempt to curb the DEA-led efforts against Hezbollah because of the Iran deal. That's a direct quote from the article.
Because of the Iran deal. Then on what ground? There's not one line in that piece that says the facts are not true. It's a question of motive. So they're saying, you know, look, this is complex. And by the way, there's some truth in this. These are complex. And as Eli just noted, there's often a debate between the intel people and the law enforcement people. I get it. There are a lot of priorities at stake. But in no part of that piece does it say that the administration didn't lean on DEA to stop being so aggressive with Hezbollah. No one denies that.
Well, you highlighted an important thing, which is there were a lot of different objectives at work here. And there was another objective, which was to reach the Iran deal in order to curb Iran's effort to develop nuclear weapons. That was equally important. We should have been doing both, and I would hope that we were able to do both. This report suggests we weren't, but it is, again, based on just a couple of people's testimony.
No, it's not actually. It's based, again, on the testimony firsthand of dozens of people. But let's get to the point that Eli made, which is that Congress, which voted on this, had no idea this was going on. So how exactly does that work? Why should the democratically elected Congress of the United States, whose constitutional duty it is to approve or disapprove a deal like this, why shouldn't they have all the facts before doing that? Why did the administration lie to them? I don't understand.
Well, Congress definitely should have had all of the facts.
But
Congress, there's plenty of legislation in Congress right now that is anti-Hezbollah that would help with the effort to confront Hezbollah. And Congress has the opportunity now, based on these facts and others, to vote in favor of that legislation.
Slow down. The deal is done, okay? First of all of those narcotics came into this country, and again, 60,000 people died last year. So you can't argue that it's not shaking American society to its foundations, drug addiction. It is, and this is part of the problem. But more than that, the Iran deal is in place, and decertifying it, undoing it, pulling out of it has all kinds of other ramifications. It's like Obamacare. Once you're in, it's kind of hard to get out, actually. So why didn't Congress know before approving this the whole story?
We don't know everything that Congress knew. I mean, there's
members of Congress say
the intelligence committees on Congress, they get classified information, and they were probably getting some of this information.
So Treasury called over and said, but just so you know, in order to kind of sweeten the deal, we're letting Hezbollah, which we've designated a terror organization, to partner with the Zetas in the Mexican civil drug war, import tons of cocaine into the country. Hope you're cool with that.
Well, Tucker, you're also overlooking the fact that some of this was public knowledge. The people who were arrested, one of the people is a Hezbollah person who was arrested in Prague. That was public information. So there was some information that was publicly out there about this.
What wasn't public is that the parts of the U.S. government tried to extradite that Hezbollah official from Prague, and were stymied in their efforts by the Obama administration, which didn't want to rock the boat with Iran. I mean, that's a perfect example, as outlined in the piece. They let the guy sit there, and now he's back in Beirut selling arms to people who shouldn't have them.
That's the position this article takes. We don't know if that's true or not. But I also want to talk about something else. If the Trump administration, the Trump administration has not changed the policy towards Hezbollah one iota. For instance, the Trump administration has looked the other way as Hezbollah-linked militias in Iraq have taken back territory. In fact, some of them are using U.S. arms that were supplied to the Iraqi army, and the Iraqi army gave it to the Hashd al-Shabi, which is basically a Hezbollah-linked militia.
One of the reasons the Iraq War
So are you upset about that as well?
I think the Iraq War empowered Iran and Hezbollah, its client. Yes, I do.
We agree about that.
Right. But I guess the point I'm making is you can debate Hezbollah and their role on the world stage. But you can't debate it's a bad idea to allow a terror group to import cocaine into your country. That's all I'm saying.
We both agree on that.
Okay. David Teferi, thank you.
Thank you.
Taylor Swift got on the cover of Time magazine for accusing a man of groping. But the man she accused says she was able to destroy his life, his reputation, and get him fired before he could even respond to the charges. So we're giving him a chance to do that next.